current world population of 7.7 billion people is expected to swell to over 9.8 billion people by 2050 and 11.2 billion people by the year 2100, according to a 2017 United Nations report. Genetically modified foods are just one way that we're preparing to feed this rapidly growing population. Genetically modified foods, also known as GM foods, were defined by the World Health Organization in 2014 as food made from crops with genetically engineered data. The survival of the human race will require the efforts of all mankind, including the producers of food, fiber, and fuel. Today, I will talk to you about the benefits of genetically modified foods. As a young agriculturalist, I believe I have enough knowledge and experience to share with you about GM foods, and after hearing my presentation, I think that you will know enough to make an informed decision about investing in GM foods yourself. First, I will discuss how GM foods are more cost effective. Then, I will explain how GM foods are more beneficial for human health than non-GM foods. Finally, I will talk about how GM foods are more readily available to consumers. First, let me talk about how GM foods are more cost effective to everyone. According to Jennifer Schmidt, a Maryland farmer and registered dietitian, in her article, Are GM Foods Cost Efficient?, she states, GMO crops continually out-yield non-GM crops. With more yield comes higher income, and therefore more profit for our producers. These foods have been modified to become more cost-efficient to produce. As a rule, products that cost less to produce are less expensive as finished products. These price differences in GM foods and non-GM foods allow low-income families access to fresh fruits and vegetables. As you can see, GM foods are more cost-effective to producers, which makes them cheaper to consumers. Now that I've explained to you how GM foods are more cost-effective, let me explain to you how they are more beneficial to human health. In a review of 6,000 studies across 2 decades delivers its verdict on GMO corn, authored by Chelsea Goad, researchers have found that GM corn increases crop yields and provides significant health benefits. This meta-analysis found that GM crops contain significantly fewer mycotoxins, a toxic chemical byproduct of crop colonization. The mycotoxins that remain are often removed by cleaning in developing countries. However, the risk does still exist. The reason that GM crops have fewer mycotoxins is actually because they were genetically modified to experience less crop damage from insects. Insects make a plant more susceptible to developing the fungi that produce mycotoxins. Therefore, non-GM foods would contain more of them. Now that I have explained to you how GM foods are more beneficial to human health than non-GM foods, let me explain to you how they are more readily available to consumers. According to Brunilda Nazario in her article, GMOs, Food for Thought, 80% of processed foods in the U.S. have GM products. This means that even though you don't know you're consuming them, there's a very good chance that you have GM products every day. Furthermore, 90% of GM crops are used in animal feed. In the same article, Nazario states, studies show that there is no difference in the makeup of milk, meat, or eggs, or other food that comes from animals who've been fed them. And the animals themselves are just as healthy as those who eat non-GMO meals. Furthermore, the FDA looks out for them by testing the safety of animal feed too. This information also further explains how GM foods will not have a negative impact on your health. To finish my presentation, I will review some of the things that I've discussed with you today. Today I talked with you about 3 benefits of genetically modified foods. First, I discussed how GM foods are more cost effective. Then, I explained how GM foods are more beneficial for human health than non-GM foods. Finally, I talked about how GM foods are more readily available to consumers. I hope that my presentation has been beneficial to you and that you have a better understanding of what genetically modified foods actually are. Thank you.